Hi everyone. Today I'll be working on a pattern which I was hoping to do on the Serenity Loom, and it's actually a wrap. And the reason why it has to be worked on the Serenity Loom is because if you look at the pattern here, you will see that one side of it is 30 and the other side is 42.5. So obviously, unless you make them in two separate panels and join them, you will not be able to make this on the long loom or the round loom. So that is why I'm going to be using the Serenity Loom to complete this. And this pattern, I will be working it from side to side, not from the bottom up. Okay, what I mean is that actually the pattern is this way, These two are the armholes and this is the sleeve. But and so what will happen is that it's a wrap, so you put your arms through these, which will have the sleeves also, and it will overlap in the front. It's more like a robe wrap kind of garment. So instead what I will be doing is that I will be working it from the side. See, because this is the way that it's supposed to be, from the bottom up, but instead I'm working it from the side, and I will be alternating two colors, so it will have vertical stripes when it is completed. I hope it will turn out okay, because I don't really have any idea whether it will or not, because I'm just trying this idea out. So we will start with a 30-inch cast on, and we have to work for 42 inches. When we reach here, we'll have to cast off the stitches to form the hole for the two sleeves. So to cast on 30 is 100 pegs. Obviously 100 pegs is because in my other video on the Serenity Loom, I explained using a swatch what was the actual gauge of this Serenity Loom that I had purchased, So we'll be using that gauge, and from that gauge I have calculated for 30 inches you need 100 pegs. So we'll be working on that. The Serenity Loom casts on just like any other loom, so I won't be showing you all that, because I have several videos already showing you how to cast on. So what we will do is that we will work the 100 pegs until we reach 13 inches, which will be where you will have to make the hole for the sleeves. Be back. I forgot to mention what was the wool that I'll be using. These are the two colors that I'm using, and they will form vertical stripes. I think maybe 10 rows of one color, and then I'll switch to the next color and keep on switching for the vertical rows. I'll decide later how many rows exactly I will be doing for the vertical stripes. And the yarn is 50% wool, 25% alpaca, and 25% acrylic. It's 50 grams and about 80 meters. It uses 8 to 9 knitting needles and a 7 crochet hook. I presume that is I think about 5 to 6 millimeters. And these are the two colors. Hope they turn out nicely. And the stitch I will be doing is twisted stocking net. I'm not going to do anything fancy yet, because this is my first time I'm using the Serenity Loom to do a project. So later on, when I get more familiar with the loom, I'll try other stitches, including I was thinking of doing that heart stitch, which is very, very nice. But for the time being, I'll do this wrap robe only in stocking net, twisted stocking net. Okay, I'm back. And the reason I'm back is for a few reasons, One is, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, I was actually going to get a nice, what do you call it? One of those little holders, for the camera, but you can actually stick it onto a shelf, because it's got a clamp, and you stick it onto a shelf, and then it's got a snaky little neck, you know, which you can angle in any direction, and I'll be able to do these videos so much better with that, but it hasn't arrived yet. It's supposed to come tomorrow or day after. But anyway, what I wanted to do was to show you this thing that I've done so far. This is what I've done so far. And the problem is that I discovered that actually a fit of laziness has sort of gotten hold of me. I'm not going to count the number of rows, you see, so I can't in all good conscience do this with actually identical stripes, you know. Plus, you know, you'll have to worry about the edges and how they don't really match up and stuff like that. So what I decided, I'd go for a totally non-uniform stripe, you know. So what I did was, since I've got it here, this side here is 42.5, you know, here it's 42.5. So I have to have, since I've got two colors, I have to divide the two colors so that they would actually fit up the whole thing and be evened out, you know. So I've got a brown and a mustard. Here you've seen the two colors here. You can see them. That's the brown and the mustard. Hang on, maybe it's better off here. No, where is it? Ah, there. You can see a little bit of the mustard coming out now. Mainly you can see the brown. So this is my idea. I'm gonna do this is what I decided to do. I'll do 3 inches of brown, then 5 inches of mustard, 4 inches of brown, 3 inches of mustard, 6 inches of brown, 4 inches of mustard, 3 inches of brown, 6 inches of mustard, 5 inches of brown, and 3.5 inches of mustard. This way I will get mustard 21.5 and the brown 21 inches. And I also don't have to worry about the fact that, you know, the stitches are not, that the number of rows are not the same, because they are going to be totally ununiform and completely different blocky vertical sizes, you know. The vertical stripes are going to be this way because I'm working them this way, so the stripes will come here. Maybe better if I drew another one, you can at least see better with that. There. So the stripes will be going this way, you know. So I'll adjust accordingly, but I think more or less this will be the idea that I have. Of course, I mean, if you are more interested in having actual uniform stripes and you're using 2 colors, or even if you're going to do this in a single color, that's totally up to you. So you don't have to follow my lazy plan, you know. Now the other thing I wanted to say, you will not believe this. After all the noise I made about the fact that this Serenity Loom had come with broken pegs, when I cast on and started working on this pattern, I totally forgot, and guess what? Here are all the broken pegs, and I went and cast on them. And I worked quite a bit, you know, and then of course I was loath to take it off, and so I haven't. It's now, I'm working on it and I'm praying and hoping that it doesn't accident. I mean, that the super glue actually works lah. Well, and it's a good test on the super glue, I guess. So we'll be back when I have to do the decreases for the armhole, and I'll show you at that point what to do. Always remember, when you have this loom, there is all these grooves here, you know. Now this is the correct side, because the fabric, the one that you're actually working on, whatever the result of your knitting actually will come in between this space, you know, that is between this S. So here, as you can see, this is where the groove is, so you have to work on this side. Okay, I thought I'd show you how to do this, just a demonstration of how to work with a Serenity Loom, you know. So now we are now here, this is where I've stopped. This is at the 100 peg point, and we are working, you know, when you work with this Serenity Loom, be very careful about how you're working it. Now, only one side will have a groove, you know, the other side will be smooth. The smooth side shouldn't be facing you when you're working the yarn, the work, you know, the knitting. The knitting should always fall in the center here, you know, between the S here. So as far as possible, you know, make sure that you're on the groove side, that the groove side is facing you when you're working it, you know. And then you start off, I'm only e-wrapping and doing this twisted stocking net, you know, for this. Now I just changed colors, so we're doing the next. So I'm just e-wrapping and working it. I presume you can see. because I got this new clamp, and the clamp itself is so, the clip, you know, it's so tough to open and to clamp it. If you have weak hands, for instance, you won't be able to open it. It's a bit tough, you know. I bought it, but then it's very steady, because one thing, the material that it's made out of is very, very hard. Even the snaky bit, you know, the part that helps you to move the whatever direction you want to curve it in, you know, so that you can get a, see here, this part you turn the loom and make it rest on your shoulder, and then you continue working on it like this. This is a very good method of working with the loom, you know, so that you don't place yourself in awkward positions trying to put your hand in between the pegs, you know, and you don't have to do that. You just move the loom to a more comfortable position for you, and this one is where I've turned it and rested it onto my shoulder, and then I continue working on it. This one is part of the yarn, because this yarn is alpaca. The yarn keeps on coming out everywhere. I hope I don't clog up my PC with yarn. Then I'll have to open it and clean it out again. That's what happens, you know, because I work a lot here. I have my PC always gets stuffed, like I got a cat in the house like that. Now the thing is, when I realized something about what I've worked, you know, when I was working on this swatch, I said that I would get it a certain, one sec. Okay, what I was saying earlier was that, you know, you remember, I don't know whether you saw my other video, the one where I talked about the Serenity Loom gauge, you know. I worked the gauge out, and then I started doing this pattern based on that gauge. Now, of course, now the worked piece, you know, the one here, is not very long, you see. So this bottom part is, the measurement is about 35. It's not 30, you know. But I think as the piece gets longer, the bottom part will contract, and the final piece should be around 30. If it isn't, I'll just get a slightly longer wrap than I wanted, you know. But then of course I will have to adjust the gauge that I had worked out, you see. The reason is, it is possible that because of the way that the Serenity Loom curves, that if you work on one portion, it does not actually give you the correct gauge for the rest of the loom. Well, I'm not very sure about that, you know, because I'll just work on it, and then we'll see when I finish whether it is coming up to 30 or not, because I calculated and I put 100 pegs to be exactly 30, you know. So let's just do, but I notice it's contracting daily, you know, as the piece gets longer. It was actually 38, now it's 35. So I'm hoping that in the end it would actually come up to 30. So this project is all an experiment, you know. But the good thing is that it is not on the width, you know. It is on the length of the piece here. This is the part that is 30, you know. So I'm going to, even if it's longer, I'll still be able to use it, and it won't really be a problem. But the only thing that I'm a little sad about is that I may run out of yarn. Oh God, every now and then this is my biggest problem. It's my perennial issue, you know. Every time I run out of yarn, I buy the yarn. This one I actually bought over 1,000 grams, you know, thinking that I would have enough for the wrap. But if it isn't enough, what I will do is that I'll make the sleeves 3/4. If I really actually cannot work that length of a sleeve, you know, with what's left of this yarn, because I doubt very much I'll be able to find this yarn again. You know, I buy them from these itinerant sellers, you know. They have these little stalls here. There is this place called Porto Portesi here in Rome, you know. And you can go there and they set up all these stalls. And the reason I go there is because the merceria, where you're supposed to go and buy yarn and all that, they're so expensive. Everything is so expensive. A ball of wool can cost up to 7-8 euro. So I don't buy from them. I go to these, actually this is run by a Bangladeshi, you know. They run these stalls here, and they give very good rates, you know. So, and also he allows me to come back and change the yarn and everything, you know. So this one was on offer, and I doubt, I remember the lady that was there, that was helping him, she told me that they probably will not have any more of this yarn, you know. And I bought it because it was so cheap, you know. So I thought, and then the colors were so nice, they're so autumny, by the time I finish this, it will probably be winter. But I think that this yarn is quite attractive, you see, so that's why I bought it. And I probably don't have enough. So if I don't have enough, I'll just make the sleeve shorter, or I may actually add black. I'll see how it goes. Now this is the part here, you see here? This is the part where the pegs were broken. You can see they're all the white bitty, That's the one. You see this one all doesn't have like that. See, they are perfectly good, But these were all broken. One of them actually snapped off completely, and I used super glue, and pasted them all back. I can't imagine, I actually forgot that when I bought this, I had no intention of ever making a blanket or anything like that, So when I saw the broken pegs, I didn't return it or do anything like that, because I wasn't really going to use this to make any afghan or anything like that. So I was perfectly happy. See, I turned the loom again. See, when you turn the loom, you can now work those parts that were a bit awkward. You keep on working them, See, always work with the loom, If you find yourself you're placing your arm in an awkward position or something like that, stop immediately and turn it to the position more comfortable to you, The biggest problem with working with the Serenity Loom is that it's very cumbersome because of its awkward size, So you're not using something that is very small like the other looms that we were working with before, you see. So you find yourself in this terrible position where you are working and you're not comfortable with it, and that's one of the main reasons I think that why this loom is not so popular, and it's only used to make blankets, But actually, if you consider the fact that it can make so many different sizes, it is absolutely fabulous to think that you could use it to make so many different patterns. All these ideas are running in my head, what patterns I want to try and everything. Well, let me see whether this one works or not first of all. And then we will come back and we'll try and do that. So I just wanted to show you how to work with the loom, so that since this was supposed to be a project that was supposed to be done on the Serenity Loom, so that I could show you the Serenity Loom, how it works and everything. I thought it's a bit awkward that I had not actually shown you in the video how to work with it. See, towards the end you put it back on your shoulder and then you go again. Now you can work the next row, and you go on and on like this, back and forth, and work the colors as it is. And I hope that my piece won't be bigger than 30 inches, because I wanted a 30-inch length from my shoulder to around my hips like that. No, I don't want it too long, but we'll see. Okay, I have some news. One is that my peg came off, so I had to re-glue it. Good Lord, I don't know whether it's the same one or another one broke. And so now we're going to work on, we have reached 13, so I just want to demonstrate to you what we'll be doing. This one is a bit messy, this drawing, so I'll take this one. So once you've reached 13, as in here 13, and we'll be starting the piece, my row, try to finish on this side. So what you do is you work 8 inches, then you cast off for another 8. You cast off the pegs, and as I mentioned earlier, 8 inches is 27 pegs, 27 pegs. So what we're doing is we'll be working for 27 pegs, then you cast off for 27 pegs, and then you work the rest, whatever's left, and what you do is you work this for a whole inch, and this time you actually have to count the number of rows you're doing for that inch, because you have to duplicate it on this side, and you won't be working on this side, you'll be only working the 1 inch only from here to here. The pegs that are from here to here you'll be working. That means from 100 pegs you have 54 pegs off, that is 46 pegs. So you work these 46 pegs for 1 inch. After that, you leave it at the 1 inch, you stop. Then you join a piece of thread here, and then you work for 1 inch and stop. And then you continue from where you stopped here, you cast on the stitches that you cast off earlier and then continue knitting. I'll show it to you exactly. I just wanted to show on the diagram what I'll be doing, and then I will actually show you what I am going to be doing by working on the loom itself. I'll be back as soon as my glue has solidified. Okay, now we'll be working on the armholes. Firstly, you have to work 27 stitches, then you'll cast off 27 stitches. I've marked it with some tape, you know. I've marked the indicator here. I've marked it with some tape, the 27 stitches that you have to cast off, and then I will also leave a marker like this, you know. And after that, these are the stitches that you will be working for an inch. 46 stitches here. You will work them for 1 whole inch, and then you'll come and stop it here. Then you join the yarn and continue working these stitches for an inch. After that, you stop here, then you cast back on these stitches and then continue normally. Alright, I'll show it to you. Firstly, let's work this. I hope my repaired peg doesn't come off, you know. This is the one I repaired. You can see it. There, this one. This is the one I just repaired. Hope it stays, you know. Alright. And also, I noticed that for this particular pattern, I'm actually going to have to cast off from the other side. Usually I always cast from the right, you know. Whenever I do, I finish from the right and then I cast off on the right. But this time I can't do that, because this pattern I'm actually on the left hand side of the loom, you know. So we'll be doing casting off on the left hand side. I hope you can see what I'm doing. One sec, let me just check whether you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'll continue. It seems that I checked the taping, it seems to be showing. So let's hope that I can get the rest of it in. Now I usually don't work it on the table, but since I'm going to have to show you how to do this, I'm going to have to work the Serenity Loom on the table. Actually, Virginia Galligan, what she does is that she puts a pillow on her lap and then she places the Serenity Loom on that pillow. I think that's a cool idea. It works well also. Working on the table is not very ideal. Hang on. Let me just get my rhythm, you know, not getting a rhythm going here. I know it looks very slow, but it isn't, you know. Once you get a rhythm going, this is because I'm trying to film it for the video, it doesn't come out very well because, you know, I'm holding it in an angle that I've actually not become comfortable with, you know. So, but I suppose you already know what I'm doing, so I'm going to just work on it. It's an E-wrap. When I come to the point where I have to stop, I'll show you what to do. Now see, I'm actually adapting this pattern from an actual pattern that was done with knitting needles, you know. So that's why I'm going to do it a bit differently than how they would do it in the using knitting needles. Okay, that's 27. I've come to the point where I have worked 27. Alright, now let me see, this is 27, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Alright, now we will start casting off. Alright. Right, now let me show you how to work the decreases for the cast off. Here it is. Now I've cast off 3. I'll show you continuously how to do it. Alright. Now the next stitch, see the yarn is here, right? The yarn is here. So you E-wrap the next peg. You can see or not. The yarn is here, coming out from here, this part. So you E-wrap this peg. Then you take this stitch, place it on this one. Take the bottom stitch over, that's knitting off, and then place this, the one that you just knit off, back on its original peg. Alright, see, it's casting off. The stitches are casting off. Try and make it as loose as possible. If you have a problem with that, use your finger. Alright, okay? Do you understand? That's how you cast off. So you do this until you reach 27. 27 stitches you cast off. Okay, now I have cast off the 27 stitches. Here you can see this is the cast off. See, it doesn't curl or do anything. If you make it loose enough, it's a very nice cast off. This will be your armhole, you know. So now you worked the 27 stitches up to here, then you cast off from here to here. Exactly 27 stitches were cast off from here to here. Now what you do is you work in reverse stocking net the same way as usual. You work 5 rows, or depending on whatever yarn you're using, take a tape and take one of the bottom parts of your knitting and then look how much 1 inch gives you. Mine gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 rows gives me 1 inch. So you have to work 1 inch. This part here is 1 inch, you know. You're at 13, you have to work 1 inch. And you're working this part here, you know, the 14 inches here, you're working it. And then you will come back after the 1 inch and I'll tell you what you're going to do after that. I'll show you. Okay, now I just wanted to point out something in case no one remembered this. But when we started just now, before we did the cast off, when we started from here, we did 1 row here. And then we did the cast off and we stopped here. Now we are here. So what we need to do is you finish all the way, finish, come back here, and then only you start your 5th row count, your 5 rows. So don't count this row that you are doing now. And then only you do your 5 rows. And when you finish the 5 rows, you come back to this point and cut off the thread. Because then you'll have to do 5 rows from here. Do 5 rows and make sure that you end here so that you can cast on and then continue. So when you do the 5 rows, you have to make sure. So you attach the thread after you finish the 5 rows on this side. You come here and you attach the thread here and then you work 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, making sure that you end on this side so that you can cast on and then continue knitting the whole piece again. Okay, we have done the 5 rows that is required. 5 rows done here. I've gone back and forth 5 times and ended it here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cut off the thread. It's scary to cut something off, no? And then you pull it down and leave it. and now we join here. We start here. There isn't much left in this one, so we won't be using this. I have a little bit left here. Since we're only doing 5 rows, we should be able to do it with this one. Adjustable knot. I always use the adjustable knot. I don't believe in just placing the thread there, I prefer using a knot. Okay, so now, because this is the part that we worked, if you can see here, this is the 5 rows that was done. 5 rows that was done. Now we'll work these. Turn. You have to work 5 rows and come back and end here. Okay. So now, this is the first row we'll be working. Okay, so we work this down 5 rows and then we'll come back. Okay, now we have finished the, I made a mistake here, so just going to take this off. I e-wrapped it the wrong way. What we're going to do now is that we finished the 5 rows. Okay, we finished the 5 rows. It's here, the 5 rows up to here. We've done it here. You can see the 5 rows. This is the sleeve. Now you have to e-wrap and bring it back to here. E-wrap it so that you can close the armhole. So what you do is you e-wrap. The groove side has to face you, E-wrap. Remember what I said about the groove part having to face you. Just e-wrap it back to the point where you had taken off. Now, to secure it, just put this over. That's the first one that you've done. Now, just push it down. You just e-wrap, that will put back the stitches that you had cast off earlier for the armhole. Now you're back. Now continue the row. So now you see this is the part where you did the 5 rows. You stopped here. Now you put back the armhole, and you will now work normally. So you go back here. You've just finished here. This is where you are now. So now you go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until you have to do the other armhole, and you repeat what you did here, and you finish the rest of it. I hope that's clear. I just thought I'd show you how it looks right now with the armhole and everything before the next armhole, so that you get an idea of how it looks. There. This is the armhole. This is the armhole. This is the rest of it. This is where you did at the 13 inch you did the armhole. Then you did 5 rows here, and here are the 5 rows that you did to do the 1 inch, and then you closed back the armhole, and now you're working it normally. That should, and then when you come to the next one, you'll do the same armhole on the same side, because the markings I've left on the thing. You leave the markings and you work it exactly like the other armhole that you'd already done. Hope that is how you've been working it. Okay, I thought I might give a small demonstration on gripping the Serenity Loom. When you're working, as far as possible, try to put your finger somewhere here like this, you know, so that you're holding it while you're working the ones here, and you can lift the Serenity Loom, and you have flexibility in movement when you do that. Or you can, when you turn, you put your hand here and then you work it this way. Do the same thing for this side also. Put your hands here and turn it, you know. Never turn the Serenity Loom or place any pressure on the pegs as you turn. Don't put your hand like this and press down. There's a danger that you're going to weaken the pegs. So don't use these points to pivot your loom, you know. This is where you turn, using these as your guides to turn, to move it about, you know, and to hold it when you want to access. You see, for instance, like this or like this, you hold them like that. This way you ensure the longevity of this loom, and also give you the stability to maneuver the loom round and round as you work. Okay, I just wanted to give you some good news. Well, that you remember I had some doubts whether the gauge that I had used was correct. Well, you remember, according to the diagram that I had drawn, that you were supposed to start the I hope I'm not going to ruin my peg like that. Okay. Now, you remember I said that we would have to do the armhole at 8, right? 8 inches. My crappy drawing. Okay, there, 8 inches, you know. So, at 8 inches, and here you have the armhole, because this has been some time already since I did it, you know. And voila, it's at 8. So that means that the gauge that I had used, the swatch that I had done, was accurate. It was actually, and it's settling down anyway. Now it's 32 now, you know. I think by the time I finish it, it should actually be 30, you know, this wrap. Now the other thing I wanted to say was that, because, you know, of the fact that my peg had come off, I decided I would go and complain to the company, you know, that that the peg I had what do you call, glued it, and it wasn't working, you know, that the peg had actually come off. And so what I did was, I wrote to them and I complained, and I told them, I said, hello, you know, you sent me this thing, and it came, the packing was so bad that, you know, it came with broken pegs. So they said, they sent me back, almost immediately, and they replied. They said, okay, you know, no problem, you just send the loom back. Send the loom back, they tell me. Send the loom back from Italy to England. My God, it'll cost me an arm and a leg to send it back there. So I wrote back and I said, no, I'd rather not do that. I'll just, it'll probably be a cheaper option for me to just keep it. Plus, if I send it back to them and I pack it really badly, I'm not really a professional packer. Let's say I don't pack it very well or something like that, and it goes there and it's even more damaged, then they decide, okay, no, and they send it back to me, and then I would be in a worse off situation than I was before, with even more pegs broken, and probably now I have like 4 or 5 only dubious strength, and two that have actually broken off, So if I had done that, so in my sarcastic letter back, I said to them, I said, well, I'll be wary next time when I pick the company from which I order the loom from, because based on their packing practices. Wow, they wrote back, and the guy tells me, whoever it is that wrote it, he says, perhaps you should take your claim up with the post office. Yeah, you are a company that sells these looms. You have to be aware of the kind of postal practices or the kind of abuse a package would go through before it reaches the customer, right? Shouldn't you pack in contingency of those facts? No. The guy tells me that I should go sue the post office. Anyway, I'm not going to argue with them. But if any one of you want to order this from UK, send me a note and I will tell you which was the one I ordered it from, so that you have a general idea who not to order from. I had to make the adjustments so that the armhole will be on the brown. So now it's brown 3.5, mustard 5, brown 6, mustard 3, brown 4, mustard 4, brown 5. Instead of the 3 that I had done earlier, it's 5 now. Mustard 6, brown, that was 5 before, it's now 3, and the last mustard is 3. This way I can have the armholes, both of the armholes will be on the brown colored yarn. I was looking at the loom and I realized that the point where you will always have problems is not so much here, it's not so much here, but the problem will be here, this part and here. So I thought I would specifically work this part and show you how to use to hold the loom. This loom is actually quite lightweight, In fact, the plastic is very, very light. You can hold it up in one hand with no problem at all. That's the nice thing about it, the fact that the plastic is made out of some kind of material that's very, very lightweight. This is actually in dimension, because I've looked at the knitting board loom. From the dimension, the knitting board loom is smaller. But of course, I have no idea how heavy it is. But they are in size, they fit just across your chest, whereas this one is actually beyond that. It's a rather wide loom. What I meant was wide, and the knitting board loom isn't so wide. You see, you hold it in a position that enables you to work the stitches off fast. The main problem with this loom is always the fact that since it's more cumbersome, it takes longer for you to work with it. But if you hold it in certain positions, you can actually work with it very, very quickly. I have noted it. See, now this one, now you see here, you hold it this way. You can do it also with the right hand, it's not a problem. You don't have to use your left hand here, because I'm just holding it and showing you. Okay, I'll go back to my right hand, in case, since most people are right-handed. I'm also actually right-handed. I just practiced with my left hand, so that occasionally I have very bad tendinitis on my elbow, on my right hand. So I tend to use so what I did was I actually forced my left hand to learn how to work this loom, so that I could work it, now you're coming to the point where there is always a problem, because here is where the awkwardness is, you know, working these. Incidentally, these are the parts that are broken, that were broken. Alright, now what you do is you hold the loom like this, you know, like you're holding a guitar, and then you hold it down, you wind a few pegs just over the middle point, then you hold it up like that with one hand, because it's light enough, you can do that with this loom, and you knit them off. Here you go. See? So they work very easily, you see, when you hold them accurately. Then you turn the loom, and now you're back to a position where you can hold it well. Rest it perhaps on the arm of your chair, and then continue winding, and because like I said, it's very lightweight, you can just hold it up with one hand and continue working. Do this back and forth. Okay, this is half of the, I'm just gonna cast off, but I wanted to show you it's exactly 30. See, it started off as 38, but then after the time, see how much of a shrinkage you get, huh? That it came down all the way to 30. And this side here, from here to the end, is 42.5. So, you know, you can have a look. This is the armholes. I know the lighting isn't that great. Okay, there, because it's evening now. The two armholes and the overlap bits. So, I'm going to do the sleeve. We'll come back when we're doing that. Okay, we'll be working the sleeve now, since we have finished the body. And with the sleeve, I'll be using Intarsia, because I want the sleeves also to have vertical stripes. So the system we're going to use is, we're not going to strand or use Fair Isle knitting, because there will be floating at the back. You know, I don't want thread to go across. I don't want that kind of a system. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do Intarsia. Intarsia is where you drop one color and you twist the color, and then you continue with the other. I'm going to try and do that on the loom. And the widest part of the sleeve is 17, and the narrowest part is 9. So we'll have to do the decreases here, and then I'm going to do a straight bit of 4. After we've done these 4, we will start the decreases. We'll come back once we have reached there. So I'll show you after I start. Okay, the colors are going to be, I've done 4 colors. I'll be doing 4 colors for this. Since it's 17 inches, we will do them in 4 colors, so that it's not too complicated, because so that will be brown 4, mustard 5, brown 4 and mustard 4. And you'll have to use different, well, you can use either bobbins or whatever, but you'll have to have 4 different balls of thread when you work Intarsia, because we're not carrying the thread across the back, you see. So Intarsia is worked differently, you know, it's worked differently from Fair Isle and stranding. So you'll have to have 4 different bobbins to hold your yarn, or you put them in 4 different bags, and every time you come to a color change, you twist the yarn and then you put on the new change. I'll be showing you this. We're going to do the cast off, and we'll be doing the other type of cast on, you know, where you cast on each peg, because if you wind them, it's not going to work, because they're going to come off every time you change color. The other part that you just wound will just come off, you see, because there's nothing to hold it in place. Now we'll be doing 14 pegs of brown, 17 pegs of mustard, 13 pegs of brown, and then 14 pegs of mustard. Okay, and so we're not going to use the part where the pegs are broken. This time I've got them all tagged, you know, so that I won't make the mistake and use them again. But I realized something, you know, it could have been the reason why the earlier peg, after I had glued it on, came off, was probably because I used not very the kind of glue that sticks immediately. You know, there are 2 types of glue, you know. One, even if you stick your fingers together, they don't immediately stick, you know. and I think that's the gel. And then there's another one that's the liquid. The liquid will stick immediately, you know. If you put your finger, it'll, you know, it'll basically glue your fingers together if you happen to have some glue on your hands, you know. That one don't use. I think that's the one I used initially when I bought them, you know. So if you want to put your pegs back and they've come off, get the instant glue, you know, the really instant one, the really super glue instant glue. That's the one that works. 1 2 3 4 5 6. How many am I supposed to get? 14. You know why I changed my ergonomic hook? I found it a bit heavy, you know, and actually my hands were getting tired using that hook. Yeah, actually it was nice, actually that hook is all ergonomic and all that, you know, but then it's a bit made out of quite heavy material in the end. I suppose it would have lasted me a lifetime and beyond, but then, you know, I'll probably not be using it very often now, because I found it, I was getting very tired with it. Okay, we're going to do the sleeve now, cast on for the sleeve. Now we're going to cast on, we'll cast on in one color first, because you can't do the twisting of the thread until you've actually gotten one row done. So we'll cast on for the sleeve, we cast on the full 58 pegs. After that, let me cast on and then we'll come back. Okay, now the first thing you have to do is that you have to cast on in one color, because you know the Intarsia will work from the after the cast on row. So the Intarsia will be working will be brown mustard, that is 4 inches of brown, 5 inches of mustard, 4 inches of brown, and then 4 inches of mustard. That's 14 pegs, 17 pegs, 13 pegs and 14 pegs. Now what we're going to do now, we've done the first part, I've already cast on in this color. So now we're going to have to work backwards, 14 rows. Now remember, the thread is always got to be here, even the one that you're working. It has to be at the back of the work, because this is the work, this is the part that's facing you, not the pegs at the back. Don't worry about those pegs. Only worry about the pegs that you're working on, you know. As I told you before, the groove is here, you're facing them. So this is your front, this is your back. So now you work 14 pegs in knit, because you've got 15 done. So let's work these 14 pegs. See, I put them on my shoulder because it's easier to work with that. The first part, the first one is always, you have to lift off the first one first, because that's a bit more tougher to move, you know. Then after that you can work the rest. Easier for you to hold it. This loom is very lightweight, you know, and so you don't really have a problem with working with it. I don't really know what the other looms are like, you know, how lightweight or not. This one is definitely made out of very, very lightweight plastic, you know. I would like to get a knitting board loom, you know, because the gauge on that one is different. But then I checked on eBay, the cost of bringing it here, plus, you know, Europe, you have to pay all the VAT and all that. I don't know how much it will cost by the time I actually get it from eBay, sent from the States, you know. At least in Stitches, they sell it quite good, the rate. You can get them for 30 something, and then the... Oh dear, wait, oh my goodness. Where am I? Let's hope that I didn't overdo it. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Haha, I'm in luck. I actually got the correct amount. Alright, that's 14, huh? Yes, exactly 14. All my talking and I forgot. Now, you see, you have to, when you bring the second thread, here's the part that you got to pay attention, alright? Okay, now what you got to do is that, basically, now you leave the old color. This is the color that's now going to be changed, alright? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So this is at the point that you have to change. Now, so you put the color here and you take this one, make a knot, for your new color. Adjustable knot. Okay, now you take the knot and you run it underneath the old color. Like this. Like this. You twist it under and bring it under. You twist it under the other one. I know it looks a bit odd. Then you bring it that way, you see? So this one is twisted there. Can you see that? And you tighten this. First work the knot. And you can now work this one here. The next one also. See, this way there will be no holes. See, can you see that? There's no hole because you twisted the other one underneath. This one is here, so there are no holes, you know. There will be no holes in between. Hope you can see that. Okay, now we are going to change the next color. Now remember what I said, this is your working yarn. Now it is mustard, so we have to take back another. This is another ball of thread. Now I'm taking it. It's not the same one as the first one we were using. Another ball, same thing. Do adjustable knot. Once you get the adjustable knot, you take the knot underneath the working yarn earlier. Hope you can see that. This is the yarn that you were using earlier. Now you go over that and you cross it and bring it here. So this way you don't get any holes in your work. See that? That will secure it. You bring it under and over and cross it. You're back to brown again. And you work brown for 13 rows. See, this one is here. This will stay on this side, you know. And you continue working this until you come to the next change. Alright, now we're putting in the last color, which is again the other mustard. Another ball of thread, new one. Same thing, bring it, okay, this is the yarn, bring it underneath it and then over and put it on the next peg that you're supposed to put it on the peg that you're supposed to be working on. See? So this way there will be no holes in your work. This is important. If you just don't do this twisting, what will happen is there will be holes in your work. Okay, earlier I showed you when you attach a new yarn, new ball of yarn, how to work the Intarsia. Now let me show you how to work the Intarsia when you are using a thread or a yarn that is already been attached. So that means you are just continuing with your work after you have attached the yarn. Okay, let's come to the first the first point where you have to change colors and work with that. So you can hold them in a you see, if you hold this on your shoulder, it's so much more easier to work. This yarn is actually quite, sorry, this yarn, I mean the loom is actually quite lightweight, you know, even when I had almost the whole of the front and back hanging from it. But of course, and I had the thread was alpaca. Alpaca is rather lightweight. Always remember to pull your not hit the camera, but pull the yarn, you know, before you start your work. Okay, stop here. I almost did more than what I was supposed to do. Now this is where you are supposed to change color. You can see that this is where you're supposed to. Every one of them has been crisscross. This is the yarn that you worked. Okay, this is the yarn that you have just finished working with. This is the one that you have to use. What you need to do is you take this one and put it across like this, and then take this and make it go under like that. It's underneath, and then bring it over back again, and then work the stitch. See? So now when you pull this, this is causing a crisscross here. That's how you achieve the crisscross. Now continue working this until you come to the next change of color. I think my yarn is all getting tangled up there because I'm using 4 bags to hold them, so I think they are getting tangled up as I'm crisscrossing them, you know. When I'm working on them, I'm crisscrossing them, so they must be getting tangled up. Actually, I'm rather curious about the knitting board loom, you know, the S loom. I don't know what they call it. I think the Afghan, yeah, it's called an Afghan loom, I think, the knitting board one. Because it's 7/16 of an inch, and an inch, I think, is segmented into 8 parts, you know. So 7/16 is rather small, you know, the gauge between the pegs. So I'm actually very, very interested in what kind of stitches that you can actually work with it, and it seems to have a lot of room. Okay, now same thing here. This was the one that you just worked. You have to bring it and put it here like this, and take the one that you're going to be working on, make sure it's underneath, and then bring it over and knit off the first piece, the first peg after the crisscross, and then continue it. Now I just want to show you, look at that, all this here also, you see there's no holes. Now that is the important part, because this is, can't really see here, whether you can see here, yeah, you see here, there is nothing to show that when you change the colors they must be smooth, you know, there shouldn't be any holes, otherwise they will actually be segmented, you know, they will be separate if you do not crisscross like this when you're working with it. Let me just quickly do this part, and then I'll do the last crisscross of the Intarsia, and then we will come back and work on the sleeve together when we have to do the decreases. Do 4 inches of this before we start on the decrease. Alright, now the last one, same thing. Goodness me, all the things all getting. Alright, now you see this one has to go on this side, because you're coming in this direction. You make sure you put it on this side, under again, make sure the thread is not you should never have it on top, never have this one going on top, that will be wrong. Always have it at the bottom like that, and then you work it. first spun. Then when you pull this back again, you will see that there is a crisscross again. And that will be the end of another row. Just wanted to show you the stitches. See how it crisscrosses on like that, and see the front. There's nothing. See, it looks like a normal. There's no indication that there is a join. Okay, so that's how you work Intarsia. And there's no floating thread at the back. The back looks exactly the same like you would have seen any other normal knitted piece that we have been working on a loom. It just looks like that with a little bit of twisting that's here. So it's a much better way to work color change, in my opinion anyway. But of course, if it's a little like 2 or 3 stitches, then perhaps floating is a better method. Oh, and one other thing, when you're working the rows and you want to stop, want to take a break, always do one row and another. On the return row, you try to stop. The reason is that when you do one row, the thread that you have in different bags or bobbins will get tangled. But on the return row they untangle. Okay, we have reached the point where we have to work on the decreases. Okay, the decreases are very simple. This is 4 inches now. Here is 4 inches. Okay, 4 inches. So what you do now is that you have to start decreasing immediately. So what you do is you just lift on both sides. You have to do it, no? You just lift the end and put it here, and then you knit it off. That will be the decrease. Same thing here. Go this side, take this one, and you have knitted off 2 stitches. You have reduced it by 2 stitches. Continue doing this every 4 rows until you have managed to bring the measurement down to 9 inches or 30 pegs, and that will be the end of the sleeve. Cast off after that, then repeat that for the other sleeve. We'll come back when we have to join them up. I just wanted to give you the formula for the decreases. The first 5 decreases I did after every 4 rows. Then I will be doing the decreases after every 6 rows for another 5 times. So here I've done them after every 4 rows 5 times, and I'll be doing this again here 5 times after every 6 rows. After that I will finish with the last 4 every 5 rows, and that will bring it to a total of 70, like that, 70 rows in all. And you will still need another 5 rows to come up with the 15 inch. You can follow this, or you can do them after every 5 rows. That's up to you. Okay, this is the completed sleeve, one of them. On the other sleeve I will mirror this. That means this one was larger, the mustard was larger than the brown. In the next, on the other sleeve, what I will do is I will make the brown 17 and the mustard 13 instead. As you can see, this is the Intarsia worked. And once you come to the point where you've done all the decreases, you no longer have 4 colors but only 2 at one point. I've also increased the length of the sleeve to 21 instead of 19. I think it will be nicer if it's longer. And I have enough thread, so I thought, what the heck, I'll just make it 21 instead of 19. And probably, I'm not very sure whether I'm going to do a border around. We'll see when we finish how it goes. Okay, here, as you can see, this is the back of the Intarsia. Look at the way that the very minimal dual thread going through. This is where all the crisscross is, you know, so that the front looks like that, but the back is like this, you know. So you don't get this double knit effect, you know. So the knit stays as single, and therefore it doesn't give that very thick effect that Fair Isle gives, you know. And as you can see, I have completed the creases and the two sleeves. Now we will join them. Okay, sorry about the radio in the background. Anyway, what you need to do is, first of all, you mark the center of the sleeve. Mark the center of the sleeve, and you mark the center of the armholes, both top and bottom. Same thing on both sides. And then you pin up the sleeves, right sides facing, however you want to do it, either with needle and yarn, or crochet. I probably will do it with crochet, after which we will probably add a couple of rows in single crochet for this, only this part here. The rest I'm leaving here. It will be probably left the way that it is. And also the sleeves are curling slightly, but they're okay. I mean, they're not really that bad. They have that rolled up look, you know. I'll see, like, you know, whether I'm going to do anything about that or not. But the bottom and the top are okay. They are flat, you see. Here, and also the top is flat. And anyway, it will probably cross over like that, you know, when you wear it. We'll see. And so that will be the joining of the sleeves. Okay, what I've done, because the crochet didn't work out, it looked quite horrid, so I'm going to have to sew it the traditional way. Because I think it's because this is a round armhole and then the sleeve is a straight edge. So what I'm doing is that I'm picking up matching stitches, you know. I just pick up a stitch from down here. Dear me. Pick up a stitch from down there, and you pick up a matching stitch from down here, like that, you know. So you get a kind of an invisible seam. This is the way you do it. It's much slower than doing it by crochet, but it's much more neater. It's giving it a neater edge, you know. Makes it look nicer. Okay, the pattern, this wrap, if you want to work it on the long loom, I've adapted the pattern, but it will not look the same. You will only be able to do the vertical stripes on part of the wrap, because where you're going to join between the 22-inch and the remaining 8-inch here, you will have to have a different pattern. Otherwise, it will look like the join will be too obvious. So you need to do something about that. So what you do is that you start from one side, you work up, then you work the armholes, then you continue working, and then you work the other armhole and you finish. But this whole length will be the length of the long loom, which is 22 inches. So that will be 8 inches here in because the long loom is, the longest long loom that you have is 22 inches. So that will be 8 inches, and the sleeve opening is 8 inches, and then a further 6 inches down. This works up to 22 inches, and you will have to work the remaining 8, which will make up the total of 30 inches in the a separate part. So you work this part first, you finish it, and you do the horizontal stripes, which when you wear it, it will turn out to be vertical stripes, because you're working from this direction to here, but you will work them as horizontal stripes. but when you wear the garment, it will look like vertical stripes. But here, after you finish this piece, you do another 8 inches, but this time you work it in Intarsia for the whole 42.5. Here also it's 42.5. Then you join these two pieces together. Of course, you'll be alternating between two colors, and here again you use the same two colors. This way, when you join the top and the bottom part, they won't look like they have been joined, and the join itself will not be too obvious because there will be a line where the color and the horizontal and vertical stripes come together. This is the only way you can work it on the long loom, using the 22-inch width together with a subsequent 8-inch to give the total of 30-inch length of the wrap. The sleeve, of course, you will work it the same way, since the sleeve only requires lesser, it requires 17 inches, and therefore it can be worked on the long loom without any problem. So if you're interested in working this particular pattern on the long loom, you will have to change it in such a way that you can use the pattern with two different colors. If you do it in a single color, again, the joint will be obvious here. This joint will be too obvious. So you need to use two different colors and then use both vertical and horizontal stripes to make it look like it's a design. Okay, earlier when I was talking about the pattern for the long loom, I forgot to mention that you can actually work it exactly how I showed the steps on the Serenity Loom. The only difference being that when you are working, you won't be working the 30-inch. You'll be working only 22. So this will be 8 inches, which is about 23 pegs like that. You can take 23 pegs here, and then this will be 22 pegs. And then the remaining pegs will be the leftover from the 62 peg of the 22-inch loom. The biggest loom, the long loom that can work 22-inch. You follow the exact same steps. That means you cast on all of it, and then when you come to doing the armhole, at the point at 22 pegs, you then begin to cast off for the armhole, and then you continue working for that 1 inch, and then you cast on back again. All the steps that I already demonstrated on the Serenity Loom, you can follow the exact same steps. That is not a problem. So the only difference being that you have to watch the length, that you'll be changing that point only. And then of course you're doing two separate pieces, and then joining them up. So I just wanted to point out that the steps that were already shown in the video on the Serenity Loom are completely compatible with working on the long loom, because the steps are exactly the same, making the armholes, continuing with the horizontal stripes, everything, they are all the same.